Don't know how many people really visit here and see the tomb of Anne Boleyn's father here. On the top is this big brass with the inscription, "Here lieth Sir Thomas Boleyn." You know, I've never really looked at his face very much. I do not think that the brass of Thomas Boleyn was made in 1538-9, and I'm trying to prove or disprove that theory. These two images are on the wall. You can see here, though, that they have put the inscription at the bottom of it, as it would be on lots of brasses, but we know that actually this is actually at the head and it's round the other way. So these are just pictures here of the brass and the inscription that we've already looked at. I'm really interested in this H to try and date that H, and also this W, and just see if I can find any other monumental brasses with inscription plate, anything like this from this period, from around the 1530s, 1540. You can see again, there he is with his head at the top of this brass and the inscription, and we can see that the inscription is at the other end of the grave, so that you could come up to the grave and read it, and he's still lying in the right direction to raise at the time of the resurrection or whatever it's called. And there's this little article here in this old book on monumental brasses. This is by Charles Boutel. I don't know what date this book is, but there's this little article which says here, a few brasses have been remarked in which the inscriptions appear reversed. At Hever in Kent, in the brass of Sir Thomas Boleyn, AD 1538, an instance of this occurs, and here the inscription plate is fixed above the head of the effigy and has its legend reversed. And again, in the brass of John Symonds and family at Cley, Norfolk, 1518, this singular usage is thrice repeated. So this is where the inscriptions are up the other way to the brass. And I googled for this brass of John Symonds at Cley, and it's here. They're both in shrouds. You can see some of the bits are missing. There's scrolls on this brass here, and the inscription. There are these 8 children at the bottom with their names, and when you look at this brass, you can see that the inscription, like the brass of Thomas Boleyn, is actually up the other way, upside down compared to the figures. The same for the children, which you can see here. This one very clearly says John at the end, and you can see John is up the wrong way. I think that's Agnes at one end as well. Anyway, but you can see that there, and also the scrolls are also up the other way too. Let's carry on with the records here that we've got. There is this article here, Sir Thomas Boleyn, the courtier diplomat, 1477 to 1539. This is from 1987. It's a graduate thesis dissertation by William Hughes Dean. This is quite a long article, isn't it, here? It's 255 pages long. It's got a rather poor quality version of the tomb there, which has been actually put up the wrong way. In the ancient church of St Peter's in Kent, Hever is a solemn tomb with a full-length effigy of a knight. This man was Sir Thomas Boleyn. I don't think I can search in here, can I? What have they got under Hever? Let's see what we've got in this book. This is just talking about how his grandfather Geoffrey did Hever. Thomas moved to Hever. His decision to move to Hever in 1505. January 1539 found Wiltshire on a list of persons who gave Prince Edward a New Year's gift. The next word we hear concerning the master of Hever is from a letter written on the 13th of March to Cromwell by Robert Cranewell. Wiltshire's faithful steward wrote, "My good lord and master is dead. He departed this transitory world, I trust to the everlasting Lord, for he made the end of a good Christian man, ever remembering the goodness of Christ." The old earl was about 62 years of age on the 12th of March 1539 when he faded into the mists of history. Right, so the record of his death is known from a letter. Interred in the north chapel of the tall-inspired St Peter's Church in Hever, his altar tomb bears a magnificent garter brass that may be seen today. Henry's Book of Payments for April 1539 listed an expenditure of £16 to be said for the soul's health of the Earl of Wiltshire, late deceased. Right, does it say anything else? Oh, okay. Wiltshire provided for his aged mother by leaving her 400 marks per year out of the issue of Essex lands, thwarting Mary Stafford, who was Mary Boleyn's husband's attempts to receive these profits. Apparently Wiltshire kept his estranged daughter Mary from inheriting as much of his property as possible. Right, so Mary Boleyn's not going to put up the brass then, is she? She's not going to have done it if they were estranged. So hang on. So who was Thomas Boleyn's mother? She was still alive at this time, was she? Let me have a quick look here. Margaret Butler. She was the last of the Boleyns to live at Hever Castle, and it was given to Anne of Cleves in 1540. So Margaret Boleyn lived there. When did she die? So she died before the 20th of March 1539-40. Where was she buried then? Where are they buried? Was buried in Norwich Cathedral. So is that where Margaret Butler was buried then, in Norwich Cathedral? If the brass is from 1539, it's not going to be Mary Boleyn who put it up, his daughter. Could it have been his mother? See, I still don't think it's from that time, do I? But I would like to see his grave. William Boleyn, Norwich Cathedral tomb. The resting place of the Boleyn family. Let's have a look at that. The resting places of the Boleyn. Oh, it's Claire Ridgway who does the Anne Boleyn files. So let's just have a quick look. What have I got? Thomas Boleyn, Elizabeth Boleyn, yeah, Mary Boleyn, Henry Boleyn and Thomas Boleyn. Oh, she's not put on there, that's a shame. So Thomas Boleyn was buried in Norfolk Cathedral. The Boleyns in Norfolk Cathedral. The Boleyn Chantry Chapel is on the south side near the high altar. Okay, so I don't think the tomb survived there. Now there's someone else who's also been studying Thomas a bit after the 80s, and that is this person called Lauren Mackey or Mackay. This is an article from 2013. They're studying Thomas and George Boleyn. So she was doing her research and she says, my research aims to give Thomas and George voices and restore colour and texture to their lives of these two men. My research aims to expand the focus from the traditional biographical treatment of one central figure, Anne Boleyn. So she was doing this work here in this article. This is her here. And then this is an interview from 2019, which is from Tudor Times, with Lauren Mackay. He's a historian whose scholarly interest has been in significant yet largely neglected historical figures of the early modern period. So they're talking about the book Among the Walls of Court, the Untold Story of Thomas and George Boleyn, which was published. There's some questions here on this. What is the most interesting new information you found in researching Among the Walls of Court? Historians generally place Anne at the centre of the Boleyn family's involvement in the events leading up to the English Reformation, and this has informed our assumptions about the family's religious convictions and influence more broadly. She said Thomas Boleyn was a man of deep, sincere and conventional piety. But my thoughts on the tomb of Sir Thomas Boleyn at Hever led me to also question about the grave of his wife, Elizabeth Howard, later Boleyn, which is in St Mary at Lambeth, now the Garden Museum. So I'm researching these two things side by side. Thomas Boleyn's tomb and Elizabeth Howard, later Boleyn's tomb as well, in St Mary at Lambeth. Can we find out any more about when the inscriptions were put on their graves, who might have put them there, and just see if we can discover a bit more about these parents of the incredibly famous Anne Boleyn. And I'll be keeping you updated here with what I discover.